several esteemed guests that are going to be get on stage with us, including the great men and women that have chosen to run for office. First, I'd like to introduce Mr. Stephen Gilchrist, who's the chairman of the African American Chamber of Commerce, who is speaking tonight. And also would like to introduce Catherine Wright, who's the executive director of the NRMC Action PAC. And directly behind me, I have the business relationship advisor of the NRMC, Mr. Van Staggs. And tonight, today I should say, this evening, the NRMC, we're kicking off an initiative called Reinvest America. And I'm going to just kind of give a few talking points of what that is and what we're proposing to do. The NRMC worked tirelessly to empower and educate with the African minority businesses across the country, utilizing not only principles of conservatism, but capitalism that translates into profitable development of strong business infrastructure. We believe that the foundation of our great nation can be strengthened with reinvestment in the opportunity for women, veterans, Asians, African Americans, Hispanics, Indians, and Pacific Islanders. We will launch today in Spartanburg, South Carolina, a comprehensive campaign to mobilize minority businesses across the city, state, and country to take the first step to building the blocks necessary for a new age of cooperation and collaboration with conservative and corporate leaders. To accomplish this enormous work, we must establish the following action objectives. Phase 1, educate. And some of the things that we're going to focus on in educating is, want to ask several questions. How can minority businesses impact employment in the communities they serve? Why is the Republican Party the political vehicle to accomplish key objectives for minority businesses? And why does mandated government minority participation hurt minority contractors? And also within the education phase, how can conservative policies foster growth of faith-based organizations in the minority community? And in phase 2, mobilization. How to create a strategic minority business partnership. How to utilize the digital marketplace to empower minority businesses. Establishing a digital platform that connects and empowers minority businesses. And encourage political participation and partnership with Republican policy leaders. And finally, phase 3, getting involved and connect. We encourage political participation in partnership with the Republican Party, lobby for collaboration and partnership with the RNC, establish working relationships with all 50 state Republican committees, and finally provide critical policy insight for local, state, and federal lawmakers. And with the establishment of our PAC, the NRMC Action, it's to advocate and support all political leaders to support new business policies that encourage our new collaboration and cooperation strategy for the U.S. economy. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gilchrist to talk about the importance of the RNC. Thank you, Mr. Gilchrist.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Good afternoon. Or good evening, I think. Yes, good evening to you. Let me first thank the National Minority Republican Caucus for having this opportunity for us to come together today. My name is Stephen Gilchrist, and I am the chairman of the South Carolina African American Chamber of Commerce. And I must tell you that as I listened to John talk about the agenda for NMRC, it clearly speaks to me and to the 1,700 members that we have all across the state of South Carolina about the need and the opportunity to be engaged and involved. And I must say to you, if there's ever a time in the political realm where we should be engaged and involved, it certainly is now. I was listening last night to the primary results that came in across the country, and it's astonishing to hear that the American people are tired. The American people are fed up. The American people are looking for a new direction. And I often talk about the fact that that new direction does not take place in void and absent of the African American community in the state and in this country. And so I want to thank the National Minority Republican Caucus for having this opportunity for us to come and share with you this evening. How many of you heard of the man? And most of us hear quite a bit about what the man won't allow us to do, and the man won't allow us to do this. Well, black people, perhaps more than any other race of folk on the planet, have a very healthy distrust of the man. That's been historical. Jim Crow, mass incarceration, the current disparities in the criminal justice system, and other aspects of institutional racism have been sponsored and enforced by government. Now, the reason why I want to point that out is because we would assume, in many respects, that there are a lot of other factors that factor into that, but I want to read that to you one more time. These institutional issues have been sponsored and enforced by government, both at the federal level, state levels, and local levels, by Republicans and Democrats across the nation and throughout the history of our country. And as a result of this experience, many black Americans balk at top-down policies to include bureaucratic solutions to problems like crime, poverty, yet instead prefer approaches that empower individuals and communities to address endemic challenges. Now, for those of you that are sitting here listening to me share this with you, I think you would agree with me that we've tried government for a while, and it hadn't worked to the degree that it should. And maybe there could be some additional strategies or some other strategies that we can incorporate to begin to look at ways that the government can help support those strategies to ensure that we empower people. I want to talk a minute about black conservatism. So in the essence of full disclosure, let me just say to you, I'm a black conservative. Black conservatism is a political and social movement. Now, I've tried to say all across the country for many, many years that you'd be amazed at the number of African Americans that I have the opportunity to connect with who clearly are very, very much conservative. But here's the problem with some of that. We don't know that we're that conservative. We hadn't been engaged in arenas that would allow us to demonstrate our conservative values. And here is where I often talk about the fact that the Republican Party has missed it, right? Because we have not provided an opportunity for African Americans to participate in our conservative values and be able to demonstrate that in any considerable way. So black conservatism is a social and political movement. The black community has generally fallen to the left of the right-wing conservative movement, and in many cases has predominantly favored itself on the side of liberalism and civil rights progress. Black conservatism emphasizes some critical components that we talk about in our community. We talk about traditionalism. That's our culture. That's our history. We talk about patriotism. That's our culture. That's our history. We talk about capitalism. That's our culture. That's our history. We talk about free market. We don't talk about free market, but we sure do understand them. That's our culture, and that's our history. And we are strong conservatives. You will not go to any black church. So, Reverend, you can tell me if I'm wrong on this. So, for those of you in the audience, if you go to black, I'm a minister of music, by the way, at 2 churches. You will not go to any black church and hear a pastor stand up and tell his congregation that he is supportive of something like an abortion. You're not going to hear it. Am I right about that, Pastor? You're not going to hear any black pastor, but guess what the narrative often is, right? The narrative often is that within our community, that becomes commonplace. So the black church, in many respects, has been the foundation in our community in many regards to our conservative principles based upon our history. So there are some characteristics of being conservative that emphasizes personal choice I just want to share with you, and then I'll take my seat. The first is the pursuit of educational and professional excellence. I don't think you'll find any community of color within the United States who does not recognize the importance of educational and professional excellence. I was a huge school choice supporter, still am, because I believe that when we trap children in places of failure, then the only thing that can result of that is failure. Does that make sense? Yes. It makes sense to me. See, I'm a common sense conservative. I want you to understand that. I'm a common sense kind of guy. And so common sense principles around conservatism make sense to me. So educational and professional excellence are things that we care about. Policies that promote safety and security in our communities. There is nobody that I know, white, black, rich, poor, conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican, that don't want to be safe. Is that right? We all want to be safe in our communities. We want to be safe in our country. We want to be safe, and we want to have policies in place that will protect us. Local economic development through free enterprise. And remember a moment ago I talked about the fact that we may not talk about free enterprise, but we really understand that it's important. You know, I was telling somebody this the other day. The African American community in this country has lost more businesses. We have less businesses today in our community than we did prior to 1960. And you think about that for a moment. Now what happened, now I'm sure all of you can kind of tell me what happened right after 1960, right? The era of what? Big government came into play. But before that, African Americans were entrepreneurs. They understood free market. You can go back and look at your history of when African Americans had just enormous political and economic power through opportunities like free markets. So local economic development and free enterprise are critical. And then finally, and as I listen to the Republican creed tonight, and I often refer to that, every time I hear that, I feel and think about the word empowerment. Because anytime you feel empowered, then you are not afraid to challenge the status quo. Am I right? When you feel empowered, those of you that are running for office tonight, you felt empowered to do so, and so as a consequence, you're not concerned about your opponent. At least I hope you're not. And so the reality of that is, how do we create an environment across this country that begins to emphasize those realities? And so I want to thank the National Minority Republican Caucus for beginning to take that step to begin to do that. And I'm going to say something to all of you here tonight. We can't continue to say that we want to engage the party in a broad sense and engage folk in the party without demonstrating that. Okay? So I just want to put that out there. The reality of it is we have a real unique opportunity in this country right now to do something that we've not done in many, many, many years. And that is to begin to usher in a very new conversation about who we are as an American people and where do we want to go as a country. And so I leave you with that tonight. My grandfather, I was raised by my grandparents. I'm from Greenwood, South Carolina, a little town on the other side of Spartanburg, not far from here, Billtown. Raised by my grandparents, both who had third grade educations. My mom was in prison most of my life. And so they didn't know anything about all the stuff I'm standing up here talking to you about today. They didn't, all mom and daddy knew was that it was important to go to that meal every day, work, come home and provide a living for us, right? But they never complained about doing what needed to be done in order for us to live a comfortable life. They never want governmental assistance. They never did anything illegal. They simply said, we can provide the best life we can for our grandchild, actually me and my brother are their grandchildren. So I share that with you to say that we have a lot of success stories, folks, that we got to tell. And the party has to do a better job of telling that story all across our country, and that's what this is all about, beginning to have that conversation. So I'm delighted. I can't wait for Kathy to talk a little bit later about what the plans are to begin to usher in a new conversation in our community about Black conservatism and how we all, as Republicans, can do what we can to make our country a better place. Thank you all for allowing me to do
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kathleen Wright. I'm the Executive Director of NRMC Action PAC. And I'm going to be introducing the candidates tonight, and it's in order of the brochure, just so you know. The candidates have 3 minutes to speak, and we're going to hold questions until afterwards because we're on a limited time at the library, so we can't have a lot of question and answer right now. So the first candidate I'm going to introduce tonight is U.S. Congress District Number 5, Ray Craig. Okay, the next candidate for South Carolina House Number 37, I don't know if she's here, Donna Hicks.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm glad to be here. My name is Donna Hicks, and I am a minority. And I own a minority business. I am a consultant for church growth and administration. I currently work at Westgate Freehold Baptist Church, and I enjoy doing that. I love the opportunity to be here to talk about minorities, because I believe that's very important. And I absolutely bring a lot of experience to this area. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I have a 4-year experience with a church in my district, Spartanburg Baptist Church. I love that church dearly. I was there when their pastor died several years ago, Reverend Durham. We honored him. We put together a wonderful night of honor for him. And I put together a resolution from the House of Representatives, and I memorialized him in the state. And so his name is forever in the record in the state of House of Representatives. And we closed out one night in prayer for him. He was a huge leader in his community. And the First Lady, her name is Donna, like my name. We had a great connection. I cried over his casket. I worshiped with my friends. And now I have seen the Lord grow and bring a new minister to that church. And it's a wonderful church, a wonderful environment. When the Charleston 9 were murdered and that happened, I went down to Charleston immediately. I was a part of that. I called my friends. These are my friends. I called my friends and talked to them about it. I went to Anderson Mill Road Baptist Church, which is where my membership is, and where I attend when I'm not working at Westgate Freehold Baptist Church. And I prayed with Reverend Keith McDaniels, the pastor of Macedonia Baptist Church. because I realized what a huge responsibility he had on his shoulders as a leader in the African American community. And with what happened in Charleston was such a tragic event, and South Carolina had the potential at that part to split apart because of what happened in our community. But godly men like Keith McDaniels stood strong, and they helped hold our community together. And strong men and women in Charleston stood and held the community together. Senator Clemente Pinckney, what he did in his church, what he taught his church, will forever be remembered in this state, because they forgave the man that murdered the members of their church. That changed the history of South Carolina, and I'm glad to be a part of that history. I love this state, and this state comes in all colors, all shapes, and all sizes, and there's room for everyone. And there's a blessing for everyone in this state. I believe, when we talk about small businesses, I believe, firmly believe, because I attended this past summer a community health initiative that talked about education and jobs are affected by our health. So we need healthy communities. And many times in our minority communities, we don't have health care like we should have. And the Inman area has a very low amount of help. We are underserved in that area. And so I have been working for about a year now with Regenesis and Dr. Hilton Perez, a good friend of mine, and Isaac, who does community outreach over there. And we're working to bring Regenesis healthcare to the Inman area. And this Saturday, we're having a huge program like they had over at not Macedonia, Mount Moriah, this past Saturday. And we are doing a big health fair on this Saturday coming up so that we can show support for our community. We're going to have free eye care, free health assessments, free hearing. We have insurance companies showing up. We have the fire department showing up. People are going to put, if people want, they can get a free, what do you call those little things? Smoke detector. Thank you. Whoever said that? Thank you, smoke detector. I could see it in my head, but I couldn't tell you what it was. Sorry, smoke detector. Free smoke detectors. This is how we build community. The African American tradition is community, because at one point, that's all that community had, with each other. And it's time that that's part of the past. And I have spent, since I've been elected for 4 years, reaching in to every community in my community and working. That's important to me, and that's who I am. This is not a campaign speech or something that I've just done. This is something that I have proof of, something that I've been working on for 4 years, establishing relationship and loving all people. I think all people are important. All lives are precious. That's all I always put on my Facebook. All lives are precious. All lives matter. Every life matters. So yes, I'm running for re-election, and I have done a lot of work. I've passed a lot of bills down there. I have signed on and co-sponsored many, many bills today. I was over in Greenville, and I was at the signing. The governor was there for the ceremonial signing of the 20-week fetal pain capable bill. I helped push that bill through. I worked very hard. I stood up in the well as a freshman, which freshmen usually don't do, but I stood up in the well as a freshman, and I fought for the life of the unborn. And so today, I got to see the fruits of that labor. And I thank Wendy Nanny, because she's the one that sponsored the bill, but my name was right after hers. I was the co-sponsor, and very proud of the work that we did on that. A lot more that I've done, and I'm not through. There's a lot more that I want to do, but I'm invested in my community. I love my community. I've proven that. And I want 2 more years. I'm asking for 2 more years. Anybody that's in House District 37, 2 more years for me to continue doing some of the wonderful things that I've been able to do in the House of Representatives and make our community stronger. Stronger families make stronger communities. And I think that's very important. that we understand that, and we work with that in our communities. Thank you.